Thank you all for coming to the circle. I want to just really welcome you. And for how many of you have been in a circle before? Ever served as a circle? Great. Okay. I'm really excited too because just some of my very dear friends, it used to be just Marilyn Johnson, but Judge Marilyn Johnson, it's still Marilyn? Okay. Judy, El-Amin, Vanessa McNorton, I hope I'm not missing anybody, and Randolph Stone, and Jessica Breyer, and Manal, I hope I'm not massacring your name, are visiting from India are here. We start a circle with an opening, and an opening is a way we transition from the outside world to the circle world. So the opening that I'm going to read today is called The Wolf Story. One evening, an old Cherokee told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside people. He said, "My son, there's a battle each day between two wolves inside us all. One is evil. It is anger, jealousy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. The other is good. It is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, faith in the Creator, faith in yourself, and faith in others." The grandson thought about it for a minute, and then he asked his grandfather, "Which wolf wins?" The old Cherokee simply replied, "The one who you feed." Kathy Bankhead is here. Thank you. And also in the circle, eventually our hope is that everybody becomes a keeper, but we also have a number of trained keepers, so we're going to keep this all together. The next thing we usually do in a circle is that people, even if you know one another, sometimes you come together and you're tense from stuff, so we do icebreakers. When we did it in Nairobi, Kenya, they called it energizers, if you do it in the afternoon. So this is the afternoon. So I want everybody to get up. And I want you to count off 1, 2.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1.
Okay. You know, partner. Okay, so all of the twos make an inner circle and face a 1. We're going to just put this down. Okay, so is everybody facing? Maybe somebody else come in. Okay, that's good. Huh? Oh, over here. Okay, so I first want you to introduce yourselves to each other. Like this, that means and a check-in is how you doing. Now, most of us know, we go around, we say, "Hello, how are you?" "I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm good." That doesn't tell us anything. So check-in, you gotta give a little bit more of yourself. You know, like, how are you really feeling? And with this check-in, say something interesting that you learned going around the circle from somebody. Okay? So in a circle, in a restorative justice peacemaking circle, we use a talking piece. The talking piece is something that's of value to the person who's keeping the circle, or to somebody in the circle. It always goes clockwise, or to your left, doesn't go to your right, doesn't go across the circle, doesn't go backwards. You can always pass. There's no judgment in passing. It can come back to you and you can still pass. The only person who can speak without the talking piece is the keeper, okay? But I try not to in the circle. So this here is Sniffles. My youngest sister is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and she works at a science museum for children. And they have these like little micro things. And this is Sniffles. Now the thing about Sniffles that endeared him to me when I first got him was you press his nose and he'd sneeze. My Sniffles has laryngitis. Doesn't make any noise. So, but we're still going to use him, okay? So, how am I doing? I'm doing pretty well. I'm like really excited to see you all here, to be here with you, to see people like Herschel who I haven't seen for years. And I mean, at first I was like, oh my God, it's Saturday. I just finished doing the training. I was really wiped out. But this like gives me new life. So, and since I didn't hear anything anybody said, I can't reveal anything. So, I'm going to just pass Sniffles, and remember, check in, say what your name is. My name is Laura, by the way. I'm from Community Justice for Youth Institute. How are you doing? And something you heard that was interesting.
Hi, I'm Saley. I am a graduate student at Symposium. I am doing well. I'm excited to be here. I moved to Chicago about a month ago, so I'm still adjusting to that, but excited to be here on Saturday. Something interesting that I heard was that
You don't have to tell me this.
oh, okay, great. Someone, the weirdest thing that they've eaten was chicken feet. Sorry. Chicken feet.
Chicken feet.
My name is Adair, and I'm a public defender, and I'm feeling really energized and affirmed. A lot of, the work I do every day is hard, and because I'm dealing with a lot of people with trauma histories, and it's nice to be surrounded by people that get that are interested in that and interested in finding ways to move forward. Because there are days you start to feel alone in terms of getting it and a way forward. And the most interesting thing I learned is that when you ask people to make a dance move, people get really excited.
Hi, my name is Sybil, and I'm feeling great. I'm really happy that all the people came out today. I think we've all learned a lot. I think this has been extremely successful, and so I'm very, very happy. What did I learn today? I learned that she and I have had some real traumatic childhood experiences when you talk about what did we steal. And that's as much as I'm saying.
And it stays here. Hi, my name is Carol Howard. I work in the circuit court. How am I feeling? I feel like I have a little sore throat, but despite that, I feel invigorated. I was feeling a little tired and everything before I got here, but now that the day is almost over and things have gone well, I feel happy and, as I said, invigorated. I know someone who loves leather jackets.
Hi, my name is Marilyn, and I am feeling on top of the world at the end of the day of this conference, which I think has been really very successful, and I'm very happy about that. Yeah, I did steal that candy bar back in my youth.
Sniffle and I say hi. I'm Sonal from India. And how am I feeling? I'm feeling super content. It's my first time in Chicago. I hadn't met anybody from Chicago until a month back, and then I'm here in your city. I feel super happy to meet the right kind of people who will help me fight child sexual abuse, not just in India, but across. So I am super, super happy. And I think one of the funniest things or the moments while speaking here to one of the people here was that we were talking about what we have stolen. So I went like, it does count, stealing hearts count? And he goes like, does stealing movies on piracy count? So.
Hi, I am Jessica. I work at the Public Defender's Office here in Cook County. I am feeling grateful. I'm grateful to be around people who really care about people. So it's a really good thing, good energy, and I'm also hopeful for what people, grateful for what people have created, and hopeful for the future of what will be created going forward. Seeing everybody around here, hearing stories, there's much more to come. So I'm excited and hopeful for that. One of the very interesting things that I learned today in the circle is that we have an author that will be published in our midst. I'm thinking positively. So, and those stories just went out. Those short stories just went out for publication. And I think it'll be this time, but I know if it's not this time, it's going to be. So, that's what I learned.
Hi, my name is Colleen Porter, and I'm a member of Trinity United Church of Christ, and also a member of the prison ministry, and that's how I found out about the forum here this afternoon. I am very glad that I came, and that I am participating in the circle. I tried to sit to the side, and Aura was like, "No, you have to come over here." So it's like, okay, so I'm over here, and now this is my second experience just this week where I've had to say something about how I'm feeling. I'm feeling really good because on Thursday night, I was at a forum and I was asked, "How are you feeling?" And I said, "I'm not really sure how I feel right now." And everyone just like stared at me like I had said something wrong. You know, I'm like, well, they asked me and I said I wasn't really sure how I was feeling, but today I'm feeling really good. I'm glad to be here and sharing this experience with all of you. Oh, something interesting that I learned about someone. What did they say? Oh, the twerk. You know, that was her favorite. Twerking? Yeah, she was twerking.
Hi, my name is Kathy. I'm feeling grateful, joyful, peaceful now. And something interesting that I heard was, and exciting, was about some 6-year-olds, first graders, who were excited to be back at school because they were starting swimming lessons.
Hi, I'm Judy. I'm just really excited. This is probably my third event this week, and where I've been with people who are concerned about the same kinds of issues. So it really gives me hope that we're moving forward. The interesting thing I heard was, who do I represent? Well, I do volunteer mediation in the courts with the Center for Conflict Resolution and do some juvenile diversion cases with them. But I also work with Nehemiah Trinity Rising as a circle keeper. So one of the interesting, because it's not an interest of mine, no judgment though, is there's somebody here that loves shoes, and that's their favorite piece of clothing.
Hi, I'm Maya. I'm a 3L here at the law school. I am feeling inspired. Graduation is upon us, and I will be entering the legal field, and it is amazing to be surrounded by so many people doing work that a lot of times in academic spaces we're told is impossible. So inspired. And interesting. Oh, I am not the only pen thief in the world. So.
Hi, I'm Karen. I work at Lurie Children's. I'm a child psychologist. I also work with the Center for Childhood Resilience. I'm feeling invigorated, and I'm feeling invigorated because I've worked with children with trauma histories for all of my career, and it's just nice to be with a group of people from many different walks of life who I've had different sorts of interactions with from a very different perspective, and it's just been really exciting and invigorating to hear the conversation. And the fun thing that I learned in the circle wasn't something somebody told me, but simply that it can be fun to dance with a stranger.
Hi, I'm Sophie. I'm a grad student at SSA and Harris, so Social Work and Public Policy. And today I'm feeling very motivated and very informed moving forward with school and my career. And something I learned is that all of the Fast and Furious movies are good, and I should check them out.
Hi, I'm Norm. Until today, I probably had this pervasive sense of depression. Probably since the election, I have been feeling that the country is just going in a direction that I would prefer not to think about. And it has been deeply distressing to me. Today, however, having met so many people whose commitment to an institution, to juvenile justice that I long thought was problematic, has been, I've been reassured that that's not the only way to feel. To see all of you so committed to something as your life work is both invigorating to me and reassuring. And that's something I've learned today as well.
Hi, my name is Vanessa McNorton. I'm with Nehemiah Trinity Rising, and I am feeling grateful. I'm grateful that I did take some time, even though I was pooped out, and definitely came to the workshop today. And I love sitting in circles, so I'm grateful to be sitting in this circle of peace. What I learned today, and what somebody I spoke to discussed, was something they learned this week, which was they were just happy that they were actually in another connection to actually being at this workshop, being at this forum, and the planning of it, and the organization of it. And it's coming to an end, so those are positive things as well. But just to be part of this and the planning, so that's one of the things that came out of our discussion.
Hello, everyone. My name is Charles. I'm a 3L here at the law school. How I feel reassured and appreciative. I think it has been really nice to see so many people spanning across the age range that are interested in this issue of juvenile justice. And I guess something I've been worried about going forward as I begin my career is getting burned out at some point and giving up and then somehow getting discouraged. And it's been really cool to see people like still at it, still at it. And I just appreciate that from my perspective. Like, it's really inspiring to me. And one interesting thing I learned is someone at this circle likes alligator enough to have it twice.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tony. I am a 3L law student up the street at Northwestern. The way I feel grateful and happy for this moment. I'm preparing for finals, so to have this break of peace and to being able to interact with such a great energizer was really fun. What I didn't really learn, but I was reminded that the electric slide crosses generations. Like, it's just a great dance.
My name is Piper. I'm a 2L at the law school, and I'm feeling really, really energized. We've been planning for the symposium, been thinking about it for a while, and getting to be in a space and share time with so many people really committed to this work has just made me feel very encouraged moving forward. I found out that there is another lawyer in the circle who began her career as a bathing suit thief.
My name is Montoria, and I'm feeling really, really thankful. Thankful for the opportunity to be in the presence of so many wonderful people with so much passion. Especially working in the nonprofit industry, sometimes you find a lot of colleagues who are just doing perfunctory work, but you can feel the passion here today, so I'm really thankful for that. Something I learned today is living in Fort Lauderdale for over 12, 15 years. there was a movie made in Miami that I never heard about, Moon. So I'll get a chance to watch that.
My name is Azure. I'm a fitness specialist, so I have no idea about law or anything that was going on today. But I am grateful for the two people that I train who told me about the symposium. And I am grateful because I love learning new things. I love experiencing new things. So this symposium really did open my eyes to a lot of things, and I'm very grateful. You know who I'm talking to. One interesting thing, not that I learned, but what I saw, it doesn't matter how old you are, everyone in here can move, and I'm really happy about that. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name's Kelly. I am a postdoctoral clinician at a private practice out in Naperville, and I feel awesome being here. I cannot even tell any of you how much I needed to be around like-minded people that care so much about what goes down in the juvenile justice system. I was trained in forensics for so long, and I left it to become a more well-rounded clinician, and I have been heartbroken since I left because this stuff is my passion, and it is just so amazing to be able to share it with all you guys and just be around so many like-minded people. I was not in a good place for a couple of weeks, and this is just exactly what I needed to be around. So I feel good, really good. What else am I supposed to say? Oh yeah, one very cool thing I did learn today. There is a officer of the court in our lair that happens to love gangster movies, and I thought that was dope. So I thought that was awesome. So here we go.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm a psychologist at the Scott County Mental Health Center. It's in Minnesota. And I am feeling fulfilled because I drove 6 hours to this symposium to meet up with two of my best friends to do this. And as I was, I moved away from Chicago about 2.5 years ago. And as I was driving in the car, my mom goes, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm driving home. And she goes, you're coming back to Florida? And I was like, no, I'm going back to Illinois. That's my home. So I'm feeling fulfilled. I learned that someone here wants to meet Michelle Obama, and I concur. So do I.
Hi, I'm Regina Murata. I'm a psychologist with the Wisconsin Department of Corrections. I am feeling blessed that I had the opportunity to come here from Wisconsin and be with my colleagues and other individuals that share the same passion that I have as well. I feel a lot of gratitude too to have this opportunity as well, and to always meet new people, and I love networking and I like being in a team atmosphere, so I feel really good about that. Something interesting that I learned is that someone in here had a great week because their husband sang on their voicemail and let them know how much they loved them.
Hi, I'm Kate. I'm a social work student at SSA next door, and I work on the Criminal and Juvenile Justice Project here at Mandel. I feel great. I feel admittedly a little relieved that this event is coming to a close. But it was really wonderful, and I've felt so inspired and in awe of the people that I get to work with at the clinic, and this symposium is kind of a culmination of all of that, so it's been great. An interesting thing I learned, this was the highlight of someone's week, so that was really rewarding to hear.
Hi, everyone. I'm Raina. I would consider myself a community activist, public health practitioner. Feel blessed to be here. Somebody mentioned burnout, and I'm on the upswing of being burnt out and leaving a job. So this is my first love. So I'm been considering coming back. So this was like a confirmation, affirmation of that's what you need to be, girl. So I'm glad I'm here. One thing I learned today is somebody in the room is on the move to meet Barack Obama, so hopefully they get to meet them sometime this week. So.
Good afternoon. My name is Randolph. I teach here at the law school. I'm feeling very reassured that there are so many people out here committed to justice. It makes me feel very reassured. The one thing I learned that I can mention is that there's a movie called The Fish Called Wanda that I need to see.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. I just noticed your socks. They're great. Get the socks? Okay. Thank you very much for checking in. It's just so important because you just never know how people are coming to a meeting, whether it's kids, they've witnessed something, if they're hungry, or they've experienced abuse, or you're an adult and you've seen or felt something. So it's just so good to check in so that we can sort of take care of each other and wrap our arms around each other. So thank you. What I'd like you to do right now is get as comfortable as you can in your chair. You try something risky. Okay, and close your eyes. And I want you to think of a place where you can be yourself, where no one judges you. It doesn't matter who you are or what you say, it's okay. And this place can be a real place or it can be a place in your mind's eye. And I want you to stay there for a couple minutes. All right, now I want you to slowly come back to the circle, keeping in mind this place that you're at. Restorative justice is a philosophy. It's a philosophy that says that those who are involved in an issue or a problem are the best people to be able to resolve it. As my good friend Kathy always tells us, if it's what you want to happen to the child that you're working with, you want it to be the same thing that would happen to your own child. She says it much better than I do, but you get the gist of it. It's in the criminal law system or the juvenile law system, we ask 3 questions. Was there a crime that was committed? Who committed the crime? What can we do to punish that person? In restorative justice, we ask, was there a harm? Who caused that harm? Who was harmed? What can we do to repair that harm? What can we do to build up the competencies of the person who caused the harm? What can we do to hold them responsible or accountable? And what can we do to make the community safe? It's not about punishment. They're all different kinds of circles. And we give them different names. But in the end, what they're all about, it's about building relationships and about healing harm. Each of us have a lot of hurts in us. And we need to be able to deal with that. What distinguishes our circle, our types of circle, which come from indigenous practices, what distinguishes them from other circles are a couple of things. One is the use of the talking piece, which we did. The fact that we're trying to create a safe place, bless you. The fact that we do values. We as a group create values that will guide us in how we conduct ourselves in the circle, values and guidelines, and we decide those by consensus. So it's not somebody else imposing rules on us, but us deciding what behavior is important in order to bring our best selves to the circle. We don't immediately, if there's a conflict circle, we don't immediately go to the conflict. We spend at least half of the circle building up relationships, getting to know one another, building trust, and we do this by telling stories. We can disagree with each other's opinion. We can't disagree with your story. That's yours. That's mine. And that's what's very important about a circle. It's very different than the way we normally conduct our discussions. So what we just did right now was a safe place, just envisioning a place that it's okay to be ourselves in. And we hope that that's what the circle will be. Now, you can't force anybody to have a safe place, but you can help do stuff like creating the values and getting to know one another and telling stories to help make the space safe enough so that we can be vulnerable and speak not just from our heads, but also from our hearts. So what I'd like to do is pass around this talking piece. This is a geode. It's rough on the outside, it's pretty on the inside. There was a woman who trained in one of the Circle Keeper trainings that we do once a month, and she was a poet. Her name was Anne O'Connor. And what she said, with the stories, we break open the infinite. And she gave this rock to the circle. Unfortunately, she passed away like a month or so after the Circle Keeper training. But the rock and the spirit of it lives with us. So what I'd like you to do is I'm going to pass around the rock and say just one value that you think is important for this circle, just this circle, for how we conduct ourselves in this circle.
I guess assuming good intentions. Assuming good intentions.
Honesty.
Sincerity.
Real listening.
Openness.
Compassion.
Respect.
Compassion.
Non-judgmental.
Well, respect.
Empathy.
I was going to say empathy, so I'm just going to say ditto.
Patience.
Conviviality.
Definitely empathy.
Willingness to learn. Willingness to learn.
Fullness of self.
Kindness.
Love.
Hope. Authenticity. Similar word, but to be genuine.
I was going to say the same thing, being genuine.
Trust.
I ditto love.
Kindness.
And I put in, normally put in confidentiality, but because we're in an open space, it makes it a little bit difficult, but inclusivity, that everybody is welcome in the circle. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, your gender identification, your sexual orientation, your race, your religion, your age, that everybody should be welcome in the circle. Normally what we would do in the circle is go around, well, let's just do this. Go around and say if these values are okay with you, with us.
These values are okay with me.
They're okay with me.
And me.
And me.
Likewise.
These values are okay with me.
They're okay with me as well.
Me too.
I agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
Me too.
Me too.
Me too.
Yes, I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Me too.
I agree.
Of course. Good with me. Yes, good with me too.
They are good with me.
Me too.
I agree.
I object.
That's the Randolph we all know and love for years. In a circle, there's usually more opportunity to go around and add more values or have questions about if anyone has any questions about the values. But for the sake of our circle, we have these values. And then we do guidelines, which are the like sort of the physical or the behavioral manifestation of the values. So in other words, something like if you have respect, I ask people to put their cell phones on off or vibrate, because there's like if somebody's speaking and somebody else is constantly looking at their cell phone, it can be very disrespectful or hurtful. But we won't do guidelines here, just I want you to know about it. Can I do a time check? Yes. No, I mean, how much time do we have?
You're out of time already.
Okay.
So I think you need to see what the group is willing to, 15 more minutes? Can you do this, Laura?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I did the time check, because so is it okay if we go for 15 more minutes? Would that be okay? If not, yeah, you need to leave? It's okay? It's all right? Okay. So let me just set my watch. I just want to be able to respect your time, too. Okay, I'm going to put down the talking piece. Oh, this is not the talking piece. I'm going to put down the microphone. No, I'm going to put down the talking piece for a second and see if there are any questions people want to ask before we go around. Questions people have? No? All right. Well, so I had a couple of questions. One was, do you think that the juvenile court system or law system that we have works? But I think this conference probably speaks to what many of the issues are, so we can skip over that one. And I want to ask you, do you think prisons should be abolished? And why?
I think the prison system as it is now should be abolished because I think that recidivism rates are high, and I think that they're inhumane. They take the humanity out of people.
I think it's complicated. Unfortunately, in my work, I've met people who have done some very horrific things and who I think, left to their own devices, could continue to do some really horrific things. And, you know, we all want to feel safe and we all want a right to safety. And what do we do, unfortunately, in a society where there are folks, whether it's because they were born that way, whether it's because they have unresolved trauma, I mean, all of these explanations, what do you do when it's like, no, you're going to continue to pose a danger to society. So it's hard to envision an alternative that means absolutely no prisons. Could we significantly reduce the prison population? Could we consider alternatives for most people in most circumstances? Yes, but completely getting rid of it is hard to imagine that world.
I don't think it's hard to imagine. I think that the prison system was initially designed, I think, for a lot of different reasons. It really took off at the end of slavery. I think it went from a unpaid workforce in some instances. But then again, I also thought in its best light was supposed to be rehabilitation. I don't see it as rehabilitation. I see it as housing. I see it as a profit-driven entity, especially when you have private companies that operate these prisons. That bothers me. So as long as it continues in this vein, I think it should be abolished. I think it needs to be torn down and restructured so that it is truly a rehabilitative entity and that it really helps people. Now, yes, you may find those people who cannot be helped, but I think that the system, if it were to be overhauled, could accommodate for those people and what would happen to those people that could not be reformed in one form or another. But from this symposium today, we've learned that we've got a lot of layers to peel back that make that, and what we're looking at with the prison system, in my opinion, is the end product of all of those many years and all those different things that have occurred over a period of years. So we've got to go back to square one, I think, and begin to put things in place to prevent those layers from ever forming, and then to, if they do get there, to put things in place so that we actually help people resolve the issues that they find themselves in.
No, I do not think that the prison system should be abolished, but I think it should be drastically changed. I think that it should routinely have counseling, job training, mental health therapy, drug and alcohol treatment, all the things that are necessary to make people whole. I think that's what prisons should be about and could be about if those were our priorities.
I agree with Carol. I don't see abolishing prison, but I think there has to be a completely different model and some commitment to recognizing that the vast majority of people who find themselves in that circumstance are our neighbors and friends and fellow human beings, and we should do what's necessary to help them live among us again.
I agree with the fact that prison system in this day and age, with the way some things are going back there, I will speak from the perspective of children with some really horrific things that happen to children. Those people need to be restored. We talk about children being restored. I think people who perpetrate the crime need to be restored too. Yes, the prison system should not be abolished in the given sense of the scheme, and that's pretty clear in my head, but it has to be drastically changed, not just with the perspective of how we look at the people in the prison, but also with respect to the jailers, or the perspective of people who are handling the people behind the bars. I think it's high time when they stopped looking at people behind the bars as people who would always be the ones wronging it, but I think even the jailers, or that side of the equation, needs to be looked at as well for reform.
So I agree with the judge's comment, one of the judge's comments earlier, that the prison system should be abolished. And I do know that we have traumatized adults just as we have traumatized children that we've been talking about, and we've been talking about interventions for children, but we haven't put those interventions in place all the time. So we now have traumatized adults who have lots of us, and so I think we are turning and essentially criminalizing trauma, and I don't see. I do believe there needs to be some system available to keep us safe, but I envision that reform that is actually needed isn't going to come about unless we talk about ripping it down and building something from a very different perspective, a very different place, and building that up.
I think the prison system needs to be I think the prison system needs to be revamped. The way that it is now is just like housing certain populations, and they're just being housed there. They're not getting, I don't think, the support that they will need when they do come back into our society.
I think we're looking at a smaller picture when the answer is really in the bigger picture, because it's not the prisons themselves that went bad all of a sudden. There are larger institutions and really values of our society that have gone south. So I would say that as we can work to try to change some of our values and how we look at people who are different, however that's defined, that will cause either prisons to, over time, decrease and change. Because what I wouldn't want to happen is what we did with mental health institutions, is just close them. That was our answer, and then we created another problem. And so I see it as a much bigger picture issue than the institution itself. The prisons represent our values and how we see ourselves in this country. Because in other countries, they don't have what we have at the magnitude. So it's a reflection of our own values and who we are as a country.
I agree. I think to the extent that we think jails keep us safe, then they should be abolished because we use it as a crutch too often, especially when you look at like Chicago, for instance, the safest neighborhoods, you aren't locking people up. And the neighborhoods that are most impacted are the neighborhoods that we say are not safe. And so it can't be that locking people up is the answer.
I certainly think the prison system in its present form should be abolished. I think that it's grown into $1 billion industry. I think if we took those billions of dollars and put them into any number of other resources, such as housing, employment, early childhood, prenatal care, I could go on and on and on and on, we would find miraculously that we'd actually have very little need for prisons, certainly much less need than we have now. And let me add that gun control would be a huge advance as well.
I think that the way that we approach incarceration in the United States needs to be revolutionized and renamed, and maybe that's the same thing as abolishing prison. I like some of the models that come from Scandinavia, where there's actually sort of like a mandatory maximum sentence that you can give someone. And then the idea is that no matter how bad the crime is, you know that they're going to one day be your neighbor again, and so you actually have to devote the care while they're in prison to preparing them for reentry. And I think that's a much better way of thinking about prison, at least for the people who maybe we decide really do need to be taken out of society for a little while.
I share the idea of following Scandinavian models for the reconstruction of prisons. In their present form, I do think in America they should be abolished. And if we simply, as a point of departure, began with the values that this group stated 20 minutes ago as the organizing principles around what the new prisons would look like, we would be taking a major step forward.
I definitely feel that the prison system needs to be revamped and changed. I agree with the system. Money needs to be poured into the communities. Money needs to be poured into schools. Money needs to be poured into restoring our families and looking at those values, those core values that we're missing within the family structures.
I do think the prison system should be abolished, and I think that's primarily because I see the prison system as a product of how people view offenders. And if you abolish the prison system, that means that the fundamental way people see offenders is also going to change, because we need a completely new way of dealing with them. And I have to think that whatever process comes of that will be healthier for us all.
I'm wrestling with the answer I should share within this group, or if I should just pass. Okay, what comes to mind when I think of whether the prison system should be abolished is a class I took last semester. It was a prisoners and prisoner rights course. And within that course, we looked at a study that was done in California with students who pretended to be prisoners and students who pretended to be guards. And in looking at that study, we realized that the guards, in order for the guards to mistreat the prisoners, they had to place an other on the prisoners. So that makes me think, with the current system and the way statistics are with prisons being populated majority by people of color, I wonder, instead of abolishing the prison system, if prisoners reflected the majority in society, I feel that in and of itself would cause prisons to be reformed, because you can't treat people who look like you as others. So Yeah.
I think the prison system should be abolished. As it currently stands, it's just a barbaric reflection of our society's values. And I think if we consider how much money has moved from schools to prisons, and what that does to really pervert incentives to get our children into prisons, I think we need a dramatic shifting in our values. And I think if we started to put money into schools and not into prisons, we wouldn't have people to put in prisons later.
No, I do not think that prisons should be abolished. But I do agree that we definitely need reform.
When I think of prison, I just think of slavery, cheap labor, barbaric characteristics, and so I agree that prisons should be, revamped. But as far as, like major companies, I look at it, it's a sweatshop to me. Like I said, it just reminds me of slavery. You do what I say or you get punished. And with a lot of, my uncle, he's a correctional officer. And a lot of the things that he told me about the prison system is it's horrible, especially what they do to black women in the prison system. So I do believe that it needs to be looked at in depth. But I believe that there should be a prison in place, but they really do need to look at it all over again, because huge companies like Victoria's Secret and Walmart and all these huge companies are getting profited, but none of the inmates are learning anything, and they're barely getting paid anything if they are doing something. So I believe yes, and I believe no. I too am conflicted on this. Absolutely, the way that it stands as of right now, yes, I've worked within one, I've worked within a juvenile one. It's awful, it's ugly, it's not anything you can't put people in a box. That said, psychopathy is real. And what I do, I've seen it, and it's horrifying, it's really scary, and there are certain people that really, unfortunately, and it doesn't promote an idea of equality or justice. It doesn't make them any less human, but there are people that are inherently dangerous, possibly through no fault of their own, possibly they were born that way, possibly I've met people that are extremely violent that have absolutely no trauma histories. And it's really scary, but that's a minority. That's a very, very tiny, tiny piece. And so it's hard to say yes or no definitively, but yeah, as it stands in the United States, it turns my stomach. So yeah, I'd say it's got to go, especially the money that's poured into it. You're absolutely right. The money that gets poured into it, and just the amount of finances that they build prisons in areas to give people jobs. Think about Kewanee, if you've ever heard of that facility in Illinois. It was not placed there to provide good amount of resources and treatment for it's a treatment facility for sex offenders and very, very serious mental illnesses for juveniles within the juvenile justice system. And it was placed in Kewanee, which does anybody even know where that is? And it was placed there to create jobs, to bring an economy back. And you can't just pour people into a rehabilitative position to create a job for the community. It needs to be something that somebody cares about, because like you were saying with the prison experiments and stuff, you see what happens when you place an other on somebody. You see what happens when people are given just a little bit of ego and a little bit of power. It gets really violent, really abusive, really fast. So yes and no, but very much yes.
So I think when I first heard the question, I was like, hell yeah, they should go. And then when I thought about it, I had the same thoughts with a lot of other people, where I think about these bigger issues and institutions that need to change. And if you were just to suddenly close down prisons, I mean, as it stands, prisons are one of the largest providers of mental health care. So it would be the same thing as closing all the mental health hospitals or the treatment centers. And so what would we do with these people? So I think that we'd have to do a whole lot of work for me to even fathom what it would look like to have no prisons. So I don't know if that's a yes or a no. It's in between.
Yeah, a lot of things were coming up for me with this question, because for me it's just not like a yes or no. I have a lot of opinions on what needs to happen in the prison system, considering I watch it on a daily basis, what goes on in prisons. And when we talk about trauma, these are individuals that continuously, everything that was happening on the streets, they're doing in the prison. So we are not rehabilitating them. Why I love working in the prison is because I'm their vision of hope. I'm one of their visions of hope. And all the staff members that step up to treat the individuals, not what they're called, inmates or offenders, but to treat them as individuals and understand them, we see differences. That's why I love what I do. I hate seeing what goes on in the prison system. I think that, like Stephanie said, like once they closed down the mental health institutions and they thought that was a great idea, most of our population in the prison system that we treat are the seriously mentally ill, the homeless, people that have a lot more than trauma, and punishing them and putting them in a 2x4, like a cell, is not treating them. You know, it makes it worse. And there's a lot of reform that needs to go into this system in itself, and especially the staff that they hire too, because the trauma continues to happen, and I've seen it. And I've written up staff for doing things to offenders because they just see it as, well, they're a criminal, but they don't deserve to get raped. They don't deserve to have what goes on in prisons, and because it's a correctional officer that's doing it and people don't stand up, there's more horrific crap that goes on that a lot of people don't know about. And when you work in the system and you see it, it affects you. And so, you know, I agree with like what everybody else says is, it's not just one thing, it's you know, like the resources that we need to help these individuals. Because I've seen when you treat them like human beings, I've seen growth. I've seen change. We talk about restorative justice, I've seen it. And so if we just did that a lot more in our systems, when these individuals get out in the community, we can live amongst them. You know, society talks about recidivism, where they have these mission statements in the DOC, which I laugh at because I'm like, you spend more time talking about recidivism, but you're not treating the problem. You're locking them up. How do you want to decrease recidivism? Well, I got a list of those things that we could work on, but that costs money, and the state doesn't want to put that money into it. And so when there's individuals like us that stand up and help these individuals that need it, we make the difference. If there's one person that we make the difference with, like today, learning and being amongst a team of people, we help. And so we just got to keep more. I have to keep with the attitude and the passion to do that. So abolishing them, I don't know. But reform, definitely, absolutely.
I do believe that the prison system in its current existence should be abolished. It's hard for me to imagine a prison existing as anything other than an oppressive agent of social control that only serves to reify other institutionalized oppressions. So I think and I think it has very little to do with public safety and rehabilitation, and I think that if you take those two objectives and you build up from there, you end up at an entirely different set of institutions that has nothing to do with a prison.
I do believe prison systems should be abolished, definitely for the historical significance of why they were started in the first place, but also I think that from what I know about abolition movements is that it's beyond just the physical place, right, or physical system, but it's also a mental campaign of what you think about these people, what you think about like the state of locking up. So it's like what I know about abolitionists is that they do major campaigns not just to tear down buildings, but to tear down minds and rebuild those minds when they're rebuilding. And sometimes that's why I think it's missing, because unfortunately some of the most radical people out there, if their family member get killed, then they'll flip the script, and they'll be like, something in your mind is still telling you, though, that a criminal is a criminal. It doesn't matter how long I've been in the streets protesting against the prison system. So it's still something very mental that we've bought into about who the criminal is, and I would say all of us take that responsibility, no matter how radical we claim to be. And I think only with a abolitionist movement can both of those start to be dismantled at the same time.
So yes, prison should be abolished, and just to get that off my chest. And I think, prisons to me are cages where we keep human beings. Those are prisons. So they should be abolished. And this analogy to slavery, I think, is a good analogy in a lot of ways. When people were talking about the abolition of slavery, at the same time there were people talking about improving the conditions of slavery. And I think, we can have that conversation about prisons. Should we abolish prisons, or should we improve conditions of prisons? So I think clearly we need to abolish prisons, because I don't think we can be forced to think about how we want society to look until we abolish prisons and how it should look. And I think after we abolish prisons, we should abolish the Chicago Police Department.
So I don't know how I follow that. The only thing I keep thinking about is Richard Pryor saying that justice is just us. So I did what you said, and I have a lot to say, but I'm respectful of the time. Thank you. And so I want to do a real quick checkout. I usually hate doing just one-word checkouts, but please, one-word checkout of how you're feeling right now, and then we'll do a real quick closing so we can end this with the integrity that the circle needs to have. Thank you.
Inspired.
Pensive.
Hopeful. Determined.
Thoughts provoked.
Clarity.
Challenged.
Hopeful.
Empowered.
Inspired.
I can't put it into a word. I would say thought-provoked would be, yeah.
Thoughtful.
Challenged.
When do we start, Professor Stone?
Determined.
Hopeful.
Thoughtful.
Reflective.
Challenged.
Hungry. Enlightened.
Conflicted.
First thought was tired, but
No, that's real. Thoughtful.
Motivated.
Optimistic.
Yo, Herschella. Closing thought? Man, this is the first time I've seen her speechless. I'm very grateful to you all for sitting in circle and for allowing me the privilege of keeping this circle. I'd like to close with the words of Maya Angelou, who said, "They may not remember what we said, and they may not remember what we wrote, but they will remember how we made them feel." Thank you all very much.